Only very recently, this evening, the union government has announced that it plans to go ahead and make ethanol from surplus rice which is there in the Food Corporation of India godowns. Remember, we have gotten you multiple stories right here on NDTV of poor going hungry. So is that not a government priority? What is the government's calculation that extra rice means ethanol? They say the government's logic here is that this extra rice at the Food Corporation of India godowns is going to be used in making ethanol, which will then be utilized in making hand sanitizers and even be used to blend in petrol. The question that would be asked of the government here is this a cruel joke on the poor of this country? The irony being explained that the FCI godowns are bursting at its seams, whereas the people of India in remote locations are going hungry. Why has the government decided to prioritize hand sanitizers over hunger and petrol over poverty? That's the news break right here on NDTV. In just a short moment from now, NDTV's Srinivasan Jain is going to be with us. We'll also be connecting live in just a short moment to Jean Drèze. He's a noted economist. Will be joining us in just a short moment. I would like to quickly make you, okay, Vasu is with us. Good evening, Vasu. Just for your benefit, I would like to read out from this press statement on the Press Information Bureau. It has been released by the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, where they say that the National Policy on Biofuels 2018 under para 5.3 envisages that during an agriculture crop year where there is a projected oversupply of food grains, the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers' Welfare, the policy is that conversion of this surplus quantities of food grains to ethanol can be done.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So, Sanket, as you put it, this is a very problematic decision that has been taken at this time because, as we had reported, the fact is that the government at the moment has more excess stock of grain in its godowns than ever in recent history. They have 7.8 crore tons of rice and wheat in the Food Corporation of India godowns, which is 4 times as much as the buffer stock that we need at this time. Now, of course, they're right to say that they have managed to distribute extra rice and wheat to those who have ration cards, those who are within the National Food Security Act, which is close to 80 crore people. But the problem is that there are many beyond that 80 crore who do not have ration cards. And that figure is fairly large. According to the economist Jean Drèze, who along with his colleagues have made an estimate, that could be somewhere in the range of almost 12 crores, 120 million people who do not have ration cards. And we see the examples of that all the time when we go out and we talk to migrants and we talk to other people in poor communities who say that we simply don't have ration cards. So we don't have access to that cheap or subsidized grain. In that event, the obvious solution, which many economists and others have proposed, is that the government universalize the public distribution system for this short period of time during this emergency, which basically means that anybody who wants ration, who wants free or subsidized ration, can go to a ration shop or through a government scheme can access it. This the government has refused to do. I put this question to Food Minister Vilas Paswan in an interview I did with him last week, and he didn't have a clear answer as to why they couldn't universalize it. At times he suggested that this would lead to a very high cost. This would mean an additional burden to the government in addition to the 45,000 crores they're already taking or spending to provide extra 5 kgs of rice and wheat under the Prime Minister's Garib Yojana. At other times, he seemed to suggest that this could eat into our buffer stock, which is precisely why you have a buffer stock to be used in the case of an emergency. So there's no clear answer from them as to why they're not able to broad-base or universalize PDS on one hand, and on the other, as your newsbreak points out, now they want to use that same excess rice to actually make ethanol for hand sanitizers. Now, of course, hand sanitizers are important, but surely at this time, putting food in the belly of India's hungry has to be a #1 priority.
Absolutely. And it'll be interesting to know the government's logic because, of course, if you go by the rule book, Srinivasan Jain, it's absolutely fine that as a matter of policy, when you quote paragraphs, when you quote the national policy, all of it falls well in place. But the point is that at a time like this, in Corona times, when you are hearing that there are people who are going hungry, there are multiple reports from all across the length and breadth of this country.
Yes.
Could the public distribution system or the distribution of these grains, perhaps free of cost or subsidized, have been prioritized over converting it to ethanol?
Absolutely. Because, Sanket, just consider the irony here. We already have godowns that are bursting at their seams, as I said, with 4 times excess capacity. We're now heading into the cropping season. The wheat harvesting season is on as we speak. What that means by some estimates is that our excess capacity, or the total amount of grain in our godowns, from about 7.8 crore tons could even hit somewhere in the range of 10 to 11 crore tons. So we will be literally bursting at the seams with this excess grain. So we have more than enough grain to give away, not just at a subsidized cost. We can give it away free because it's actually costing us money to stock it. Moreover, this will actually free up space to bring in the excess grain. So there are any number of reasons that can be used to justify universalizing the PDS, giving away ration virtually free to state governments so they can distribute it to the poor. But, as I said, government not willing to do that.
Now, Vasu, before your news break, when you had actually, I remember you had gone to an FCI go down and you got us a report, comprehensive ground report from there. The food supplies minister, Vilas Paswan, was spoken to, and a very specific question was asked of him as to why this excess rice and grain not be provided to those who need it most if it is in abundant supply. He says, well, as part of the government schemes, states can take these grains and rice from the central government at a fixed rate, and then they can distribute it whichever way they want. So even at this moment, the government's policy is that somebody buy this grain and rice from their godowns and then eventually decide to distribute it. Why can't the central government do it?
Exactly, Sanket. The fact is that if you charge states for it, then that will just make states all the more reluctant to actually purchase it, because states themselves are hurting financially. That said, it's not as if some states aren't attempting to do that. So remember that the Delhi government is saying that we will give ration even to those who don't have ration cards. So therefore, spending on picking up excess grain from the public distribution system network, from the FCI, and trying to distribute it to those without ration cards. So individual state governments may choose to do that. But the fact is that both morally and financially, there's simply no reason why the government just can't give this grain to the states for free. And the fact that while not doing that, they're happy to divert it for the production of ethanol is going to make that moral position all the more indefensible.